and welcome to a truly special episode. Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and timeless topics out there, excellence. Now, I know excellence is a word that's thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean to unlock excellence? To live a life of integrity, growth, and achievement? That's what we're here to uncover today, and I have to say, I couldn't be more excited about our guest, our journey into this world of excellence, into the real nitty-gritty of it, what it takes to get there. What it takes to stay there is something that can shape every part of our lives. Whether it's personal goals, professional milestones, relationships, or the legacy we leave behind, excellence, true excellence, touches it all. And you're in for a treat because today we have someone who knows excellence like few others do. A man whose work has not only inspired millions, but also set the foundation for countless people to live their lives with purpose, with direction, and with a level of achievement that many only dream of. I'm talking, of course, about Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, as many of you know, is a legend in personal development. He's someone who has spent his life helping people turn their dreams into reality, guiding them to elevate their lives beyond the ordinary and step into the realm of the extraordinary. With his words, his insights, and his own life journey, Jim has shown us what's possible when we commit to the pursuit of excellence. So Jim, welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Matt. I'm thrilled to be here. Excellence is, indeed, one of my favorite topics. It's one of the things I believe in most deeply. Because when you pursue excellence, you're not just improving the outcome of what you're doing, you're transforming who you are in the process. You know, there's this saying that goes, success is something you attract by the person you become. Excellence, in a way, is about becoming that person, developing the character, the habits, the resilience that pulls success and fulfillment into our lives. Excellence, to me, is about setting a standard for yourself that goes beyond what's required and well beyond what's expected. Let me tell you a quick story, if I may, Matt. When I was young, I didn't really understand excellence. I thought success was about what you could accumulate, how much you could achieve. I didn't realize that who you are matters even more than what you get. But I was lucky. I met a mentor who taught me the importance of striving for quality in everything I did. He taught me that excellence starts with the small things, the way you handle a conversation, the care you put into your work, the thoughtfulness with which you approach life. I'll never forget what he said to me, Jim. If you want more, you've got to become more, and that phrase changed my life. It was like a switch went off. I understood that excellence wasn't about impressing others, it was about the way I showed up in every aspect of my life. It was about personal integrity, self-discipline, and a deep commitment to becoming the best version of myself, day by day.
Wow, Jim, that's powerful. If you want more, you've got to become more. That's so true, and yet it's easy to overlook. I think a lot of people get caught up chasing the more without realizing that excellence isn't really about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. You know, it's funny, most of us start with that external idea of success. We think if I just get this job or if I just hit that milestone, then I'll feel fulfilled. But then once we get there, we realize it's not enough. It's like the goalposts keep moving.
Right. Exactly, Matt. That's such an important point. You see, external achievements can be wonderful. They give us something to strive for, something to work toward. But if we make our happiness dependent on external success alone, we're going to find ourselves always chasing, never truly arriving. And that's where the deeper pursuit of excellence comes in. Excellence isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. It's about building a life where you're proud of what you're contributing, no matter the external rewards. One of the most important lessons I learned was that excellence isn't something that just happens. It's intentional. It's a decision you make every day. And it doesn't start with the big things, it starts with the little choices you make throughout your day. How you do your work, how you treat people, how you handle challenges, each of those moments is an opportunity to practice excellence.
So Jim, when you talk about the little choices, that's such a fascinating concept because so often people think excellence is about making these grand gestures, right? They imagine this heroic picture of success, but you're saying it's really in the small things, in the way we handle each moment. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Absolutely, Matt. Here's the thing, life doesn't present us with big decisions all the time. Most of the time, we're just living moment to moment, making small choices. And excellence is about approaching those small moments with a mindset of quality. It's about putting your best into everything you do, no matter how small. Think of it like this: if you can take pride in the little tasks, then the big ones become easier. It's like building muscle. Every time you choose excellence in a small way, you're strengthening that muscle for the big decisions down the road. When it becomes a habit to strive for excellence, you're setting yourself up for bigger and bigger success over time.
That's such a great perspective, Jim. It reminds me of something you once said: how you do anything is how you do everything. It's like each small act is a reflection of the whole.
Exactly, Matt. That's one of my favorite principles because it reminds us to take responsibility for our actions. We can't expect to succeed in big things if we neglect the little things. Excellence is about taking ownership of your life, even in the smallest of details. So if I could leave our listeners with one thought as we start this journey into excellence, it would be this: focus on being excellent where you are right now. Don't wait for the big moments. Make excellence your habit today and watch how it transforms your life.
Thank you, Jim. That's such an inspiring way to kick things off. I can already feel the energy in this room, and I know our listeners can feel it too. All right, everyone, stay tuned because we're just getting started. In the next segment, Jim and I are going to dive deeper into what it means to cultivate excellence in our mindset to develop the kind of mental framework that allows us to grow and thrive even when the going gets tough. All right, Jim, now that we've touched on why excellence matters, let's dive even deeper. I think one of the big questions people often ask is, what does excellence actually mean? Because for a lot of people, it might just mean being the best at what you do. But from what you've shared, I get the feeling that excellence goes beyond simple achievement. So in your view, what is excellence and why is it so crucial in today's world?
That's a great question, Matt. I think the concept of excellence is both simple and profound. At its core, excellence is about setting a higher standard for yourself, a standard of commitment, discipline, and integrity that you bring into every area of your life. But it's not just about being the best or achieving success. See, success is often measured by what we accumulate or accomplish, but excellence is more about who we are becoming in the process. Excellence, to me, is a commitment to continually improve, to push ourselves beyond the comfort zone, and to give our best no matter the task or the outcome. It's about showing up fully engaged, not just going through the motions.
So it's more about that deeper quality of showing up consistently rather than just chasing one big moment of success.
Exactly, Matt. Excellence is a pursuit. It's not a place you arrive at and say, "I've made it." It's more like a journey, a lifelong journey where you're constantly learning, growing, and refining yourself. I like to think of excellence as a form of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, "I care enough to give my very best in every moment, no matter who's watching or what the stakes are." Matt, a lot of people focus on the destination, that end goal, the success they want to achieve. And while there's nothing wrong with that, goals are essential. The pursuit of excellence is what makes those goals worthwhile. When we pursue excellence, we're creating a life that's not only about achievements, but about fulfillment. And that fulfillment, it comes from knowing we're constantly challenging ourselves to reach new heights, not because anyone expects it, but because we expect it from ourselves.
So Jim, in your experience, what are the key principles that define excellence? I think people hear terms like discipline, commitment, or integrity all the time, but how do these actually play a role in cultivating a life of excellence?
Great question. Let me break it down into 3 core principles that I believe are essential to living a life of excellence. First, there's discipline. Discipline is the cornerstone of excellence because it's what allows us to follow through on our commitments, even when the initial excitement has faded. Discipline means doing what needs to be done, even when we don't feel like it. It's the practice of putting in consistent effort, day after day, no matter the circumstances. Second, commitment. When we're committed, we're invested. We're willing to go the distance, to put in the time, the energy, and the effort required to reach our goals. And commitment isn't just about making a choice once and sticking to it. It's about reaffirming that choice every day. When things get tough, when obstacles come our way, commitment is what keeps us on track. And finally, continuous improvement. Excellence requires that we keep learning, keep growing, and keep evolving. Life is always moving forward, and so should we. Excellence isn't about reaching a peak and staying there. It's about constantly striving to be better than we were yesterday, even if it's just a little bit. When you bring these 3 principles together, discipline, commitment, and continuous improvement, you start building a life that's anchored in excellence. And when you anchor yourself in excellence, success follows naturally as a byproduct. You don't have to chase it because excellence attracts success.
Jim, that's beautifully put. So if I'm understanding correctly, excellence is less about the outcome and more about the process of becoming someone who embodies these qualities. It's a way of life, not a destination.
Exactly, Matt. Excellence is the foundation, the process. Success is just the result of consistently choosing excellence. Think of it like this: imagine you're building a house. Success might be the beautiful house you can admire from the outside. But excellence, that's the foundation. It's the strong, steady base that holds everything together. And without that foundation, success is like a house built on sand. It won't last. So often we hear people talk about what they want to achieve, the big dreams, the plans, the goals. And while all of that is wonderful, if they're not building a life rooted in excellence, those dreams won't have the support they need to become reality. Excellence gives our dreams substance.
It's a powerful reminder, Jim, and one that feels especially relevant today. I mean, we live in a world where there's this constant pressure to achieve, to be successful, to have these tangible symbols of success. But it sounds like what you're saying is that if we aim for excellence, success will follow naturally and we won't have to chase after it.
That's right, Matt. Excellence is timeless, and that's why it's crucial, especially in a world that's always pushing for more. Excellence is like an inner compass. When you commit to excellence, you're not swayed by the trends, the distractions, or the constant demand for instant gratification. You're focused on what matters, and you're building something that lasts. Now, let's talk about something important, the difference between mere success and excellence. Success, as I mentioned, can be measured in achievements. It's that promotion, that award, that recognition. But excellence is deeper than that. Excellence is about doing the best you can with what you have. It's an inner commitment. Whether you're in a big position or just starting out, excellence says, I will bring my very best. That's a higher, more fulfilling pursuit because it's about living up to your own potential, not the expectations of others.
Jim, that's so true. I think a lot of people might even feel a sense of relief hearing that, because so many of us get caught up in trying to prove something to the world, and we forget that the real reward is in doing our personal best. Could you share some specific habits or attitudes that can help us build this foundation of excellence? For someone listening today who wants to bring excellence into their daily life, where should they start?
Absolutely, Matt. Building a foundation of excellence starts with the small decisions, and I'll share a few specific habits that have made all the difference in my life and in the lives of those I've coached over the years. First, practice intentionality. Excellence doesn't happen by accident. It's a choice you make every single day. So start each day by setting an intention. It could be as simple as saying to yourself, today I'm going to give my best effort in everything I do. When you make that commitment consciously, you're setting the tone for a day of excellence. Second, take pride in your work, no matter what it is. Excellence isn't limited to big projects or high-stakes goals. It shows up in how you do even the smallest tasks. So whether you're writing an email, cleaning your workspace, or preparing for a meeting, do it with pride. Bring your best effort to everything, because that's how excellence becomes a habit. Third, invest in continuous learning. Excellence requires that we keep growing. So read books, seek out mentors, attend workshops, and learn from every experience, good or bad. The more you invest in your personal development, the more you'll have to give, and the more excellence you'll bring into your work and your relationships. Finally, surround yourself with people who inspire excellence. Excellence is contagious, man. When you're around people who hold themselves to a high standard, it naturally elevates your own game. Find people who challenge you to be your best, and support them in their journey too.
Wow, Jim, those are powerful, practical steps. So to summarize, excellence starts with intention, pride in the small things, a commitment to learning and surrounding ourselves with others who uplift us. That's something we can all start practicing right away. And I love that you made it so actionable. I can already imagine how life-changing this mindset shift could be for our listeners. Instead of chasing an elusive success, we're focusing on building a foundation of excellence that supports us in every way. Thank you, Jim.
My pleasure, Matt. Remember, excellence is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. And the best part, when you pursue excellence, you're not just transforming your own life, you're inspiring others to do the same. Excellence has a ripple effect. So if I could leave everyone with one thought, it would be this: strive for excellence, not for success. Success will come, but excellence is what makes life truly fulfilling.
Jim, we've talked about the concept of excellence and the principles that define it: commitment, discipline, continuous improvement. Now, I'd love to explore the inner work of excellence, if you will. Because while actions and habits are crucial, it seems like excellence really starts within, but with our mindset. How much of a role does mindset play in achieving excellence? And what kind of mindset should we aim to cultivate if we want to live up to our fullest potential?
Matt, you've touched on one of the most important aspects of the journey toward excellence. Mindset is truly the foundation upon which everything else is built. It's like the roots of a tree without a strong, well-grounded mindset. We don't have the stability or the resilience to weather life's challenges. Let's think about it this way: every goal, every aspiration, every act of self-discipline, all of it begins with the mind. It's the belief that you can achieve excellence that empowers you to take that first step. But it's not just about having confidence or a positive attitude. A true excellence mindset is one that's oriented toward growth, resilience, and continuous improvement. To me, the core of an excellence mindset comes down to two things: self-discipline and resilience. Self-discipline is the ability to keep going even when you don't feel like it. And resilience is the strength to get back up every time life knocks you down. Without those two qualities, we might reach success temporarily, but sustaining excellence would be nearly impossible.
So Jim, it sounds like self-discipline is really a muscle that we need to strengthen, but for a lot of people, that's easier said than done. There are so many distractions these days, and it's all too easy to lose focus. Could you share some actionable steps for building that kind of self-discipline? Maybe something our listeners can start doing today to build mental toughness.
Absolutely, Matt. Self-discipline is like any other skill. It can be developed over time with consistent practice. And you're right, in today's world, distractions are around every corner. But here's the thing: self-discipline isn't about eliminating distractions. It's about training your mind to stay focused on what truly matters, even in the midst of those distractions. I like to suggest a few practical exercises to build this muscle of self-discipline. First, I tell people to start with something simple, something small. Let's say you want to improve your self-discipline around waking up earlier. Instead of aiming for a huge change overnight, start by setting your alarm just 15 minutes earlier than usual. Stick with that for a week. Once you're consistent with it, move it back another 15 minutes. Why? Because when we set and achieve small goals, it gives us momentum. It builds confidence. You're training yourself to follow through on a commitment, and that small success creates a ripple effect in other areas of life.
So you're saying that self-discipline is like a series of small wins that build on each other over time.
Exactly, Matt. Excellence isn't achieved in a single grand gesture. It's a series of small, consistent actions done with intention and purpose. And those actions require mental toughness. When you start small and build gradually, you're rewiring your brain to embrace discipline, to welcome challenge rather than shy away from it. Another exercise I like is the do it now principle. Whenever you feel like procrastinating, whether it's responding to an email, making a difficult phone call, or working out, simply say to yourself, do it now, don't wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment rarely arrives. When you take action immediately, you're training yourself to overcome hesitation. Over time, this habit of immediate action becomes second nature, and you'll find yourself achieving more simply because you've trained yourself to start rather than waiting for motivation or ideal conditions.
Jim, I love that. Just do it now. It's so simple yet so powerful. And I imagine that after a while, this kind of self-discipline becomes more automatic and you don't have to fight yourself as much to stay on track. But what about resilience? Because as we all know, no matter how disciplined we are, life is bound to throw challenges our way. How do we build that mental toughness to keep going even when things get tough?
Resilience, Matt, is truly a hallmark of excellence. It's the quality that allows us to endure hardship, to grow stronger through adversity. I often say that resilience is less about bouncing back and more about bouncing forward. It's about using challenges as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. To build resilience, I encourage people to change the way they view obstacles. See, obstacles are inevitable. Every person who has achieved greatness has faced setbacks. But those who reach excellence have learned to reframe these challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" or "How can this make me stronger?" Another powerful approach is to practice gratitude, even for the difficult moments. When we're grateful for challenges, we shift our perspective from frustration to growth. We start to see every obstacle as an opportunity to strengthen our resolve.
So Jim, would you say that excellence is not just about avoiding failure, but about learning how to grow from it?
Precisely, Matt. Excellence isn't about perfection. In fact, failure is an essential part of the journey. It teaches us humility, patience, and perseverance. Every setback gives us valuable insights that, if we pay attention, can guide us toward greater growth and improvement. I'll tell you, I've met many highly successful people, and the common thread among them isn't that they were perfect or that they never failed. No, the common thread is that they learned from every failure, and they were willing to try again, to get back up with renewed strength. There's a story I love about a man named Thomas Edison. You know, he failed thousands of times before he finally perfected the light bulb. But when someone asked him how it felt to fail so many times, Edison replied, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's resilience in action. It's the ability to see every setback as a step closer to success.
That's incredible, Jim. And it really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? I think so many of us are afraid of failure, and we don't realize that failure is often the very thing that propels us toward excellence if we're willing to learn from it. Are there any other strategies you'd suggest for building resilience? Perhaps something practical that listeners can apply in their daily lives?
Absolutely, Matt. One of my favorite techniques is something I call mental rehearsing. This is about visualizing yourself facing a challenge, but handling it with confidence and composure. You imagine yourself staying calm, thinking clearly, and making smart decisions. This mental rehearsal helps to build confidence, so that when real challenges arise, you're better prepared to handle them. Another strategy I recommend is journaling. When you go through tough times, write about it. Reflect on the experience. Ask yourself, what did I learn? How did this make me stronger over time? You'll have a record of your resilience, a collection of moments that show you just how strong you truly are. And every time you face a new challenge, you can look back on these reflections and remember that you've overcome difficulty before. This gives you the strength to keep going.
I love that, Jim. It's such a powerful reminder that resilience isn't something we're just born with. It's something we can build day by day through these small practices. I can already imagine how transformative these habits could be for our listeners. One last thing before we wrap up this segment. You've shared so much about mindset and self-discipline, but could you perhaps share a personal story or an example of someone who demonstrated these qualities and achieved excellence? I think it would really help our listeners see how these principles play out in real life.
Certainly, Matt. There's a story I often share about a young man named John who came to one of my seminars years ago. John had a dream of building his own business, but he was facing a lot of challenges. He didn't have much money, he didn't have any connections, and he was facing a lot of self-doubt. But John had something powerful. He had the will to succeed. He committed to developing self-discipline, showing up every day, learning everything he could about business, and practicing relentless persistence. He faced setback after setback, customers that didn't show up, products that didn't sell, but he kept going. Every failure was a lesson, and every lesson made him stronger. Years later, I met John again, and he had built a successful business that served thousands of people. His secret? A growth mindset, unbreakable self-discipline, and an unyielding resilience. He taught me as much as I taught him. And that's the beautiful thing about excellence, Matt. It's a journey that constantly transforms you into a better version of yourself.
Jim, I think we've all heard the saying, excellence is a habit, not an act, but in today's busy world, it can be tough to create habits that stick, let alone habits that build us up over the long term. From your experience, what daily habits are essential for anyone who wants to achieve and maintain excellence? What kind of routines or practices can our listeners adopt to stay on the path, even when life gets hectic?
Matt, you're absolutely right. Excellence is built day by day, action by action. And I'll tell you, the best place to start is with the basics. We often think of habits as these big, dramatic changes we need to make, but excellence really comes down to small, consistent actions that compound over time. So let's start with the first essential habit, which is setting clear priorities. Every day, I recommend that you take a few minutes to ask yourself, what are the most important things I need to accomplish today? This may sound simple, but it's amazing how many people skip this step. They dive into the day without clarity, and then wonder why they end up scattered and unproductive.
Setting clear priorities? I like that, Jim. It sounds like a great way to anchor the day before getting pulled in 100 different directions. But how do we know what to prioritize, especially when everything can seem urgent?
Good question, Matt. Prioritizing is more than just picking tasks. It's about aligning your actions with your values and long-term goals. Here's a practical approach I recommend. Use what I call the 90-day vision. Think about where you want to be in 90 days. Picture your personal and professional life, your relationships, and your health. Then, every morning, pick the tasks that will move you closer to that vision. This habit of aligning daily actions with your larger goals helps you avoid the urgent trap where everything feels like an emergency. When you know what truly matters, you're less likely to be swayed by distractions. Excellence, after all, is about living purposefully. Each day becomes a building block, not just another 24 hours passing by.
That's a powerful way to start the day, working with the end in mind. And it sounds like this habit really sets the foundation for the rest of your day. But once we have our priorities straight, how do we make sure we're staying on track, especially as the day unfolds and things get busy?
That's where the habit of time management comes in. Time is a resource we can never get back, and so learning to manage it effectively is key. But here's the trick: time management is really about self-management. Let me share a technique I love called time blocking. Once you know your priorities, divide your day into blocks of time dedicated to specific tasks. For example, if one of your top priorities is writing or creating, set aside an uninterrupted block in the morning when your energy is high. If fitness is a priority, block off a specific time in the afternoon or evening to exercise. And here's the important part: guard these blocks of time fiercely. Treat them like appointments with yourself that you don't miss. This approach is simple but powerful because it keeps you accountable to your goals. Over time, these blocks become habits, and you'll find that your productivity and focus increase exponentially.
Time blocking, I've heard it mentioned a lot, but the way you frame it as appointments with yourself gives it a whole new level of importance. And I imagine that once you start seeing the results, it's easier to stay committed to those blocks. Now, Jim, what about when life throws us off course? Disruptions happen, and sometimes it feels like even the best laid plans fall apart. How can we maintain excellence when things don't go as planned?
Matt, disruptions are inevitable, but maintaining excellence doesn't mean perfection. It means resilience and consistency. That's why I recommend building a habit of flexibility within structure. Let me explain. When you block out your time, have a primary plan but also a backup. For example, if you miss your morning exercise block, don't abandon the workout, simply fit it in at a different time that day. Excellence is about adaptability. It's about not letting one setback derail your whole day. But there's another habit that's crucial here, and that's accountability. Accountability keeps us grounded. If you're serious about excellence, find someone, a mentor, a friend, or even an accountability group to check in with regularly. Share your goals, your wins, and even your setbacks. Accountability isn't about pressure, it's about support. It's the mirror that keeps us honest with ourselves.
I think accountability is one of those overlooked habits. It's easy to be hard on ourselves in private, but when we share our goals with someone else, it's like we're making a public commitment. It adds a layer of responsibility, and that can be incredibly motivating. But let's talk about the small daily actions that build up over time. I know you've spoken before about the power of compounding, and I'd love to hear more about how small actions can create big results in the long run.
Absolutely, Matt. Small actions compound over time, and that's really where the magic of excellence happens. Let's take a simple habit: reading. If you read just 10 pages a day, that doesn't seem like much, does it? But over a year, that's 3,650 pages, or roughly 15 books. Imagine how much knowledge you'd accumulate over 5 years. This is what I call the law of small disciplines. Small disciplines, practiced daily, lead to lifelong success. It doesn't have to be something big. It can be waking up 10 minutes earlier, practicing gratitude every night, or spending 15 minutes learning something new. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't feel overwhelming. These small habits create momentum, and before you know it, you're on a whole new level. And here's the thing: this isn't just about professional excellence. Small, consistent actions improve our relationships, health, and mindset. Excellence is holistic. It touches every area of our lives.
The law of small disciplines, that's such a valuable insight, Jim. It reminds me that we often overestimate what we can accomplish in a day, but underestimate what we can achieve over a year or even a decade. And these small habits, they feel manageable, something anyone can start today. Would you mind sharing some examples of small daily routines you think everyone should consider adding to their lives?
I'd be happy to, Matt. Let's start with something I call the morning reflection. Take just 5 minutes every morning to reflect on your goals, visualize the day ahead, and set an intention. This simple practice sets the tone for your day and keeps your mind focused on excellence. Another one is the evening review. Before you go to bed, take a few minutes to review your day. Ask yourself, what went well? What can I improve tomorrow? Reflecting on your progress daily creates a feedback loop. It allows you to course correct and keeps you engaged in your journey of growth. And of course, I can't stress enough the importance of learning. Spend just 15 to 30 minutes a day reading, listening to a podcast, or watching something educational. This habit expands your mind, keeps you inspired, and fuels continuous improvement.
These routines sound simple but incredibly powerful. It's almost like you're bookending your day with intentionality, starting with reflection, ending with review, and fitting in time for growth. I can see how, over time, these small habits can make a massive difference in someone's life. And I imagine that the act of keeping these habits strengthens your self-discipline too, right?
Exactly, Matt. Discipline is like a muscle. The more we practice it, the stronger it gets. By committing to these small habits daily, you're reinforcing your self-discipline, which then spills over into other areas of life. And remember, every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you build self-trust. Excellence isn't just about achieving big goals, it's about cultivating the trust that you'll show up for yourself, day in and day out.
Jim, this has been incredibly enlightening. I think you've given our listeners a roadmap to excellence that's not only achievable, but sustainable. These habits aren't about overhauling your life overnight, they're about making small, meaningful changes that last. Before we wrap up, is there one last piece of advice you'd give to someone who's ready to start building these habits, but may still feel a bit intimidated by the journey ahead?
Absolutely, Matt. I'd say this: don't wait for the perfect moment to start. Excellence begins right here, right now, with what you have. Pick one small habit and start today. Excellence is a journey, not a destination. And as long as you're moving forward, no matter how slowly, you're already on the path.
Jim, I think one of the most difficult parts of striving for excellence is dealing with the inevitable setbacks. We all have those moments when things just don't go as planned, and it can be incredibly discouraging. For many people, those setbacks can stop them in their tracks. So let me ask you, how should someone handle failure? How do you take a situation that feels like defeat and turn it into a stepping stone on the path to excellence?
Matt, that's such an important question. You know, there's a phrase one often remind myself of: failure is a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. And here's the thing about failure: it's not just something we encounter, it's something we need. It's part of the journey, not a detour from it. When we face setbacks, we're often given a chance to learn something that success alone wouldn't teach us. We're given the gift of insight, a lesson that can sharpen our skills, deepen our character, or strengthen our resolve. Failure is not the enemy of excellence, it's the teacher of excellence.
So you're saying that excellence actually needs failure? That's powerful. I think most people see failure as something to avoid at all costs. But if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that failure is part of the process, something to be embraced rather than feared.
Exactly, Matt. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that if you're not encountering failure along the way, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. Excellence is a high standard, and reaching for it is going to test you. It's going to challenge you, push you, and yes, sometimes knock you down. But that's where resilience comes in, the ability to get back up, to try again, even when things didn't work out the first time. That's a skill that only failure can teach. Think of it like a muscle. Every time you encounter a setback and choose to learn from it, you're building that resilience muscle. And over time, you get stronger, more adaptable, more willing to try again. That's where excellence is born, not in avoiding failure, but in learning how to respond to it.
That's such an insightful way to look at it, Jim. But what about those moments when failure feels really heavy? I mean, there are times when a setback can feel so big, so crushing, that it's hard to see any positive side to it. What advice would you give to someone who's right in the thick of that kind of experience?
Matt, I know exactly what you're talking about. There are times when failure feels overwhelming, like a wall that's just too tall to climb. In those moments, it's easy to feel defeated or to want to throw in the towel. But here's something that's helped me, and it's something I call the perspective shift. When you're facing a major setback, take a moment to zoom out. Remind yourself that this failure is just one chapter in a much larger story. It's not the end, it's part of the journey. One setback doesn't define you. What defines you is how you respond to it. And sometimes the best way to get through those difficult moments is to lean on others. Seek out mentors, friends, or family who can help you see the bigger picture. Often we get so wrapped up in our own disappointment that we can't see the path forward. But someone else might be able to offer a perspective that we can't see ourselves. And that perspective can make all the difference.
That's great advice, Jim. So it's not just about toughing it out, it's about reaching out, getting perspective, and finding strength and connection. Now, I know you've mentioned in the past that failure is one of life's greatest teachers. Can you share a story or two, maybe a personal experience or someone you've learned about where a major failure turned into a key to achieving excellence?
Of course, Matt. You know, one story that's always stuck with me is about Thomas Edison. Here's a man who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Think about that. Here was someone who faced repeated failures again and again. But each one brought him a little closer to success. Instead of seeing those failures as defeats, he saw them as progress, as data points on the journey toward a breakthrough. And eventually, he invented the electric light bulb, a discovery that changed the world. I think Edison's story illustrates a powerful truth: when you're committed to excellence, every failure becomes part of your success. Each misstep is an opportunity to learn, to adjust, to refine your approach. That's the mindset of someone who's not just striving for success, but for true, lasting excellence.
That's an incredible story, Jim. Edison didn't let failure stop him, he let it guide him. I think that's a shift many people can benefit from, seeing failure as feedback rather than as an endpoint. Did you ever have a personal experience like that, where a setback or failure became a turning point for you?
Oh, absolutely, Matt. I remember early in my career, there was a business venture that I was so sure would succeed. I poured my heart and soul into it, worked harder than ever. But things didn't go as planned, and the business ultimately failed. I was devastated. At that point, it felt like I had lost everything. But in the aftermath, I took a hard look at what went wrong. I studied my mistakes, looked at the decisions I had made, and realized I had overextended myself, taken on too much without a solid plan. It was a humbling experience, but that failure became one of my greatest teachers. I learned the importance of preparation, patience, and pacing myself. In fact, that failure shaped the foundation of my approach to business from that point on. Every successful venture I pursued after that was influenced by those lessons. So yes, failure hurt, but it was also the gateway to a much deeper understanding of excellence.
That's powerful, Jim. So in a way, that failure didn't just teach you, it transformed you. It's like each setback adds another layer to who we are, helping us grow stronger and wiser. I think our listeners will really connect with this idea that failure isn't just something to overcome, but something to learn from and even embrace. How can we make sure we're truly learning from our failures, though? How do we avoid making the same mistakes over and over?
Great question, Matt. This is where reflection becomes essential. After a setback, take the time to reflect. Ask yourself some honest questions. What went wrong? What could I have done differently? What lesson is this experience teaching me? Sometimes, in the rush to move on, we skip this step. But without reflection, we miss the opportunity to grow. Excellence is all about learning, adapting, and improving, and that only happens if we're willing to pause and honestly evaluate our experiences. One practical approach I use is keeping a failure journal. I know it sounds a bit unconventional, but it's incredibly valuable. Every time I encounter a setback, I write down what happened, what I learned, and how I plan to handle similar situations differently in the future. This journal becomes a resource, a blueprint for continuous improvement.
A failure journal, that's fascinating, Jim. It's almost like creating a personal playbook on resilience and growth. I think a lot of us could benefit from that, turning those difficult experiences into resources for the future. So, to summarize, if I'm hearing you right, we need to approach setbacks with a learning mindset, take time for reflection, and even find ways to document the lessons so we can carry them forward. That's how we make sure we're moving closer to excellence, no matter what challenges we face.
Absolutely, Matt. And here's one final thought I'd like to leave with everyone: failure is not final. It's a chapter, not the whole story. Each time we rise after a setback, we're telling ourselves that we're worthy of excellence, that we're committed to growth. That's what excellence is: a commitment to keep moving forward, to keep striving, no matter what comes our way. Remember, excellence isn't a destination, it's a journey. And that journey will be filled with challenges. But every challenge you face, every setback you encounter, has the potential to bring you closer to the best version of yourself.
Jim, I think we've covered a lot of ground so far, but there's one piece that keeps coming to mind, and that's the role of relationships. No matter how motivated or driven we are as individuals, there's something irreplaceable about the power of connections, the right people around us. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. How important is the role of relationships, mentorship, and support systems in achieving excellence?
Matt, I'm so glad you brought this up. You're absolutely right. If we're talking about excellence, we have to talk about relationships. See, success and excellence are rarely achieved in isolation. We might have the vision, the skills, and the drive, but it's the relationships we cultivate along the way that help us stay on course, that give us strength when our own resolve falters. I like to think of relationships as the hidden scaffolding of our lives. They may not always be visible, but they're always there, supporting us, pushing us forward, and often holding us accountable. And when it comes to reaching excellence, those connections can be invaluable.
I love that hidden scaffolding. It's easy to see relationships as just part of life's routine, but what you're saying is they're foundational to real lasting growth. But Jim, how do we go about finding and building the right relationships? It's one thing to have people around you. but finding those who genuinely uplift, inspire, and even challenge you, well, that's another thing entirely.
Exactly, Matt. You've hit on an essential point there. Not all relationships are created equal. If we're serious about excellence, we need to be intentional about the people we allow into our inner circle. It's about choosing relationships that support our goals and align with our values. I often say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Take a moment to think about that. It means that if we surround ourselves with people who inspire us, push us, and hold us accountable, we're more likely to rise to the standard of excellence we set for ourselves. On the other hand, if we're constantly around negativity, complacency, or mediocrity, that's going to have an impact too.
So it's not just about surrounding ourselves with positive people, but those who also challenge us in a constructive way, right? People who might not always tell us what we want to hear, but what we need to hear.
That's exactly right, Matt. We need people in our lives who aren't afraid to challenge us, to point out when we're falling short or when we're holding ourselves back. And that's one of the greatest roles a mentor can play. A true mentor isn't just a cheerleader. They're also a guide. They see your potential, sometimes even more clearly than you do. And they're willing to tell you the hard truth so that you can grow. Mentors are especially valuable in the pursuit of excellence because they've often walked the path before us. They know the terrain, they understand the obstacles, and they can help us avoid some of the common pitfalls. That's one reason I'm such a big advocate for seeking out mentorship. If you can find someone who has achieved the kind of excellence you aspire to, learn from them. Absorb their lessons, their experiences, and their wisdom.
It sounds like mentorship is more than just getting advice. It's almost like having a guide who's already been through the trials and can offer real, tested insights. Jim, I know you've mentored many people over the years. What do you think makes a great mentor-mentee relationship?
Great question, Matt. For a mentor-mentee relationship to truly flourish, there needs to be mutual respect and a commitment to growth from both sides. It's not just about a one-way street where the mentor pours out wisdom and the mentee passively receives it. A great mentee actively seeks to apply what they learn. They ask questions, they're open to feedback, and they show a willingness to stretch beyond their comfort zone. And as a mentor, there's an element of responsibility too. It's about being willing to invest in someone's potential, to guide them without trying to dictate their path. The best mentors help others discover their own answers, their own strengths. They're there to support, not to control.
That's so valuable, Jim. I think it reframes the idea of mentorship. Instead of just looking to someone for answers, it's about engaging in a relationship that encourages growth on both sides. It's dynamic. And speaking of growth, how about relationships with peers? How important is it to have people around us who are on a similar journey, striving for excellence in their own lives?
Oh, peers are incredibly important, Matt. Having people around you who are also reaching for excellence can be a huge source of motivation and inspiration. Think of it like running a marathon. When you're surrounded by others who are running alongside you, pushing their limits, it's a lot easier to keep going, even when the road gets tough. Peers who are on a similar journey can also offer a sense of camaraderie and understanding. They get the challenges, the setbacks, the sacrifices. There's a shared experience that can be immensely supportive, especially during times when the journey feels overwhelming.
And what about family and friends who may not necessarily be on the same journey but are still part of our lives? How do we approach those relationships without letting them distract us from our goals?
Now that's a tricky balance, Matt. You know, not everyone in our lives is going to understand or even support our pursuit of excellence, and that's okay. Family and friends don't have to share our exact path to still be valuable and meaningful parts of our lives. What's key is learning to set boundaries and communicate openly. If we have people in our lives who may not fully understand our goals, it's our responsibility to share with them, to help them see why this journey matters to us. But at the same time, we need to protect our focus and our time. It's about being selective in how much influence we allow from people who may not share our vision.
That makes a lot of sense, Jim. I think a lot of people struggle with that, feeling torn between their goals and the relationships they've built over time. So to bring this back to something actionable, what are some specific steps our listeners can take to build and nurture relationships that support their pursuit of excellence?
Great question, Matt. Let me share a few tips. Be intentional about your circle. Take an honest look at the people around you. Are they helping you grow, challenging you, supporting your goals? If not, consider expanding your circle to include people who do. Attend events, join groups, and seek out communities aligned with your values and aspirations. Seek mentorship proactively. Don't wait for a mentor to find you. If you see someone who embodies the qualities you admire, reach out. Ask for advice, show genuine interest in learning from them, and be respectful of their time. Remember, mentorship isn't just about taking, it's about engaging and giving back in any way you can. Nurture your connections. Building relationships isn't a one-time effort. Regularly invest in the people who matter. Reach out, check in, be a source of support when they need it. Strong relationships are built on reciprocity, on being there for each other over time. Create boundaries with compassion for relationships that may not align with your goals. Set boundaries kindly and with understanding. Let people know when you need focused time for your work or when you're dedicating energy to your goals. It's possible to balance both personal and professional relationships without compromising either. Join or create accountability groups. Finding a group of like-minded people who can hold each other accountable is powerful. It doesn't have to be formal. It could be a weekly check-in with friends who are also pursuing excellence. Share your goals, your progress, and encourage each other along the way. Express gratitude regularly. Never take relationships for granted. Acknowledge the people who support you, whether it's a mentor, a peer, or a family member. Let them know their role in your life matters. Excellence isn't just about what we achieve, it's about who we become along the way, and relationships play a major role in that.
Those are incredible tips, Jim. I think it really shows that while excellence is a personal journey, it's one that's enriched by the people we bring along with us. And I love the emphasis on gratitude. So often we're focused on the goal that we forget to appreciate the people who help us reach it. Jim, I want to thank you for shedding so much light on this topic. I think our listeners will leave with a renewed sense of purpose, not just in their own pursuits, but in the relationships that support them. Any last thoughts before we close this segment?
Just this, Matt, as you go after excellence, don't forget the people who journey with you. Relationships are one of life's greatest gifts. Invest in them, nurture them, and make them part of your success story. Excellence is about more than individual achievement. It's about lifting others up along the way.
Beautifully said, Jim. Thanks again for these insights. And to our listeners, remember, excellence isn't just about what you do, it's about who you're becoming and who you share the journey with. Let's keep reaching higher together. Jim, so far we've talked about what excellence is, how to cultivate it through mindset, self-discipline, relationships, and habits. But there's another element that feels almost like the compass of excellence: having a vision. I think people often hear the word vision tossed around, but maybe they don't always understand what it means, especially when applied to the pursuit of excellence. Could you break down what vision truly means and how it serves as a motivator on this path?
Absolutely, Matt. I'm glad you brought this up because, as you mentioned, vision is often a term that gets thrown around without people really grasping its depth. But let me tell you, vision is at the core of excellence. It's the North Star that guides your journey. It's a vivid picture of the future that you're working toward. Vision is what allows you to see beyond your current circumstances, beyond the day-to-day challenges, and connect with a bigger, more meaningful purpose. Now, I want to make something clear. A vision isn't just about material goals or professional achievements, though those can be a part of it. A vision is about who you want to become. It's the legacy you want to leave, the difference you want to make. When you have that kind of vision, Matt, something magical happens. You wake up each day with a sense of purpose that can drive you through the highs and lows.
So it sounds like vision is less about the what and more about the why. It's about having something that pulls you forward, even when things get tough. But Jim, when it comes to actually creating a vision, where should someone start? How do you make it tangible and personal?
Great question, Matt. Vision begins with introspection. I encourage people to ask themselves some big questions. What kind of life do I want to create? What values are most important to me? What impact do I want to have on the people around me? These are questions that help you get to the heart of your vision. And once you have a sense of that, the next step is to make it tangible by visualizing it in as much detail as possible. If your vision is to be a great leader, imagine what that looks like in practice. Picture yourself making decisions, inspiring others, and overcoming obstacles. If your vision involves creating a legacy, imagine the lives you'll touch, the changes you'll bring. The clearer the vision, the more powerful it becomes because your mind begins to gravitate toward making it a reality.
I love that idea of making it vivid. And I think for many people, the struggle isn't necessarily creating a vision, but maintaining it. Life has this way of throwing obstacles in our path that can make it easy to lose sight of that vision. How can someone keep their vision alive, even when they hit setbacks?
You're absolutely right, Matt. Life has a way of testing our commitment. And this is where goal setting becomes essential. Your vision is the big picture, the ultimate destination. But goals are the stepping stones that help you make consistent progress. You need both a vision that inspires you and goals that keep you grounded and focused. One of the most powerful ways to keep your vision alive is to break it down into smaller, achievable goals. Each goal should be a building block that brings you one step closer to that vision. By achieving these smaller goals, you not only make progress, but you also get a sense of accomplishment that reinforces your belief in the vision. When setbacks come, as they always do, these small wins can give you the confidence to keep pushing forward.
So it sounds like there's a balance between the long-term vision and the short-term goals. The vision pulls you forward, but the goals give you the confidence that progress is happening along the way. I think a lot of people struggle with setting goals that are both realistic and challenging. Jim, do you have a process for goal setting that you could share with us?
Certainly, Matt. Goal setting is an art, but it's also a discipline. Here's a framework I like to use that can make the process more structured and effective. Reflections start with a reflection on where you are. Assess your strengths, your weaknesses, and where you need to improve. This isn't about being hard on yourself, it's about being honest. Excellence requires a clear understanding of where you're beginning. Set clear goals, make your goals specific and measurable. A vague goal like "I want to improve" isn't as powerful as "I want to read one book per month on personal development." Clarity brings focus. Time-bound targets attach a timeline to each goal. A deadline creates a sense of urgency. It's the difference between saying, "Someday I'll get in shape and I will lose 10 pounds by June 1st. That timeline keeps you accountable. Action plan: break each goal down into actionable steps. If your goal is to write a book, list out each step, creating an outline, setting a daily writing goal, and so on. This makes the goal less overwhelming and more achievable. Measure and adjust regularly. Review your goals. Excellence isn't a straight line. Sometimes you'll need to adjust your goals as you progress or as circumstances change. Don't be afraid to make tweaks, but don't lose sight of the larger vision. Celebrate milestones. Finally, take the time to acknowledge your progress. Each small win brings you closer to the ultimate vision, and celebrating these moments gives you the fuel to keep going.
That's an incredibly comprehensive approach, Jim. I think it really demystifies the process and makes it more actionable. And I love that last part, celebrating milestones. I think people often overlook that part, but it seems essential for maintaining motivation.
It absolutely is, Matt. Celebrating your progress is like pausing to take a deep breath on a long journey. It reminds you of how far you've come and keeps the vision alive in your mind. Excellence isn't about perfection, it's about progress, and every step forward is worth recognizing. Let me share an example from my own life. When I first started in business, I set a goal to improve my public speaking skills. My vision was to become a respected speaker, someone who could inspire and impact others. But the process didn't happen overnight. I started by speaking to small groups, practicing every week and learning from each experience. Each time I got in front of a group, I celebrated that step. And over time, those small goals compounded. I eventually reached a point where I was speaking to thousands, but it all began with those humble beginnings and celebrating each improvement along the way.
That's such a great reminder that the journey to excellence is incremental. Hearing you talk about starting small, setting clear goals, and celebrating each step, it really makes the pursuit of excellence feel more attainable for all of us. Jim, if you had to summarize, what are the most critical elements of vision and goal setting that our listeners should walk away with?
Absolutely, Matt. Here's what I'd say to everyone listening. Define your vision. Start by getting clear on what you want, not just in terms of achievements, but in terms of who you want to become. Let it be a vision that inspires you and resonates with your deepest values. Set specific, actionable goals. Use goals as the pathway to your vision. Break them down into steps you can take every day. Make each goal measurable and attach a timeline to keep yourself accountable. Be flexible, yet persistent. Life will test you, so be prepared to adjust your course as needed, but never lose sight of your vision. Persistence is key, but so is adaptability. Measure your progress. Regularly reflect on your journey. Assess where you're succeeding and where you may need to adjust. Measuring progress helps you stay on track and build confidence. Celebrate your wins. Every step forward is a step closer to excellence. Don't wait until the final goal to celebrate. Appreciate each milestone. Success is a series of small wins.
That's beautifully put, Jim. I think you've just provided our audience with a roadmap to excellence. And you've reminded us all that the pursuit of excellence isn't some abstract concept, it's a tangible journey we can embark on with clear steps and daily dedication.
Thank you, Matt. It's been a pleasure to dive into this. And to everyone listening, remember, excellence is within your reach. Start with a vision that excites you, break it down into achievable goals, and commit to the journey. Every small step counts, and each day, you're closer to becoming the person you aspire to be.
Thank you, Jim. I think that's the perfect note to end this segment on. To everyone listening, keep that vision alive, set those goals, and take that next step forward. Excellence is waiting. Jim, we've covered so much today. We've explored the path to excellence, from vision setting to building habits and overcoming challenges. But I know that for many people, the biggest question isn't necessarily how to reach excellence, it's how to maintain it once they get there. When someone has reached a certain level of success, how do they avoid becoming complacent? How can they ensure that excellence is a part of their life for the long term, not just something they experience in brief moments?
Matt, that's an excellent question, and it touches on one of the core principles of true, lasting excellence. You see, excellence isn't a one-time achievement or a peak that you climb and then descend from. Excellence is a practice, it's a way of life that requires constant attention, or consistent effort, and a dedication to ongoing growth. I often say success is never owned, it's rented, and the rent is due every day. Reaching excellence is just the beginning. Once you're there, the question becomes, how do I keep paying the rent? The answer lies in two things: commitment and renewal.
I love that, Jim. The idea that success is rented daily, it really reframes what it means to be excellent. So let's break this down. What does staying committed to excellence look like, practically speaking, and why is self-renewal so essential?
Let's start with commitment, Matt. Staying committed to excellence requires a mindset of humility, an understanding that there is always room for growth. Excellence is never something we finish, it's something we continually pursue. When people achieve a level of success, it's easy to feel that they've arrived, but that mindset is a trap. Complacency is the silent enemy of excellence. One way to avoid complacency is by setting new challenges for yourself regularly. These challenges don't have to be enormous. They just have to be something that stretches you, something that makes you grow. For instance, if you're a speaker, maybe it's about mastering a new technique or exploring a new topic. If you're a leader, it might mean learning more about your team's needs or adopting a new approach. The key is to keep looking for ways to improve.
So would you say that excellence is about never becoming too comfortable in one's achievements?
Exactly, Matt. Comfort is wonderful, but it can also be deceptive. When we get comfortable, we stop growing, and the moment we stop growing, we're no longer living in a state of excellence. Excellence demands that we stay just a little bit uncomfortable, that we remain open to learning and stretching. And this brings me to the second part of sustaining excellence: self-renewal. Life has seasons, and people have cycles. Just as we need rest to refresh our energy, our commitment to excellence also needs renewal. Self-renewal is about regularly taking time to reflect on your journey, reassessing your goals, and making necessary adjustments. Take time to ask yourself questions like, am I still aligned with my vision? Have my goals evolved? Is there something new I need to learn to stay at the top of my game? Renewal isn't a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength and wisdom. It's what keeps you fresh, motivated, and ready to tackle each new day.
That's powerful, Jim. I think a lot of people fear the idea of taking a step back to reflect, thinking it might slow them down, but you're saying that it's actually an essential part of maintaining excellence.
Absolutely. Reflection isn't about slowing down, it's about making sure you're on the right path. Think of it like this, Matt: if you're driving a car, sometimes you need to check the map, maybe even refuel. Taking that time doesn't stop you from reaching your destination. It ensures that you're going in the right direction and that you have the energy to get there. One of my mentors once told me, Jim, the people who stay successful are the ones who keep learning, and it's true. No matter how much you've achieved, there's always more to learn. Embracing that mindset of continual learning and reflection keeps you humble, open-minded, and committed to excellence.
It seems like this approach to maintaining excellence really requires discipline, Jim. Discipline to challenge yourself, discipline to reflect, and discipline to keep growing. But it also sounds like it's a balance between pushing forward and pausing to renew. Would you say that balance is part of excellence?
Yes, Matt, balance is a vital part of excellence. Excellence is not about relentless, mindless pursuit, it's about purposeful, mindful pursuit. Balance allows you to sustain the energy, clarity, and passion needed for excellence over time. If you push too hard without taking time to renew, burnout is almost inevitable. And burnout undermines excellence. But if you only reflect without challenging yourself, then you risk stagnation. So yes, the balance between action and reflection, between challenge and renewal, is critical. One practice I recommend is taking time each month or even each week to evaluate your progress. Ask yourself what went well, what could be improved, what's the next small challenge I can set for myself. This habit of regular reflection and goal setting keeps you aligned with your vision and prevents you from becoming complacent.
So to sum up, maintaining excellence seems to require a few key habits: setting new challenges, regular self-reflection, and committing to ongoing learning. Are there any other practices you'd recommend for sustaining excellence in the long run?
Absolutely, Matt. There are a couple of additional practices I think are crucial for anyone who wants to maintain excellence over time. First, cultivate gratitude. When you're pursuing excellence, it's easy to focus on what you haven't achieved yet or the things that still need improvement. But taking time to appreciate your journey, the lessons you've learned, and the progress you've made keeps you grounded. Gratitude reminds you that while there's always room for improvement, there's also much to celebrate. Second, surround yourself with inspiring people. Excellence, as we've discussed, is often a product of the people you associate with. By staying connected with individuals who challenge you, inspire you, and share your values, you're more likely to stay on track. Excellence isn't just a personal endeavor, it's often a shared one.
Jim, I think these are points our listeners can really hold on to. Gratitude, inspiring relationships, regular self-reflection, and continuous learning. It's a toolkit for a life of sustained excellence. Before we wrap up, is there one final message you'd like to leave for our listeners who are on this journey?
Thank you, Matt. I'd say this: remember that excellence is a journey, not a destination. It's about who you're becoming as much as what you're achieving. Embrace each step, each challenge, and each moment of growth. Life has a way of rewarding those who commit to excellence with a sense of fulfillment that goes beyond achievements. So, stay humble, stay hungry, and never stop learning. Take time to renew, appreciate the people who support you, and celebrate your progress along the way. And most importantly, hold on to your vision. Excellence isn't about perfection, it's about progress, dedication, and a commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. So keep paying the rent day by day.
That's a powerful reminder, Jim. Excellence truly is a way of life, something we have to nurture, renew, and commit to continuously. Thank you for sharing so much wisdom and practical advice with us today. And to our listeners, let's take these words to heart. Excellence isn't something we reach once and hold on to forever. It's a daily practice, a journey of growth and reflection. Remember, as Jim said, success is rented and the rent is due every day. Let's go out and live that excellence. All right, Jim, we've covered some incredible ground today, from the foundational principles of excellence to maintaining it over the long haul. Now, for our last segment, we're diving into questions from our listeners. We selected a few of these ahead of time, and I think they'll bring up some interesting points that maybe we haven't fully explored yet. Are you ready?
Absolutely, Matt. I'm always excited to hear real-life questions because it's in those specific situations that we often find the richest insights. Let's hear what's on their minds. Matt.
Our first question comes from Sarah, a listener who says, I understand the value of excellence and want to strive for it, but honestly, my life feels overwhelming. I've got so many responsibilities, family, work, bills, and barely any time to focus on self-improvement. How do I even begin this journey of excellence when I'm already spread so thin?
Sarah, that's a great question, and I know many people can relate to feeling stretched to the limit. Life often demands so much from us that the idea of adding pursuing excellence to the list can feel like another burden. But here's what I'd say. Don't think of excellence as something extra that you need to add on. Instead, think of it as a lens through which you see all the other areas of your life. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one day. Excellence starts with small steps, little things done with great intention. What if you focused on just one habit or one area where you want to bring a touch of excellence? Maybe it's setting aside 10 minutes each morning to center yourself, or being fully present with your family during dinner. Excellence doesn't have to mean perfection. It's about being intentional with what you already have on your plate.
So Jim, you're saying that excellence can start with something small, like a habit that doesn't add time, but changes the way you approach what's already there.
Exactly, Matt. Excellence can start with how you spend the few minutes before bed, or how you choose to react when a challenge arises. And Sarah, remember, you're not alone on this path. Share your goals with those close to you and ask for their support. Even tiny moments of excellence, added up over time, can transform a life.
Our second question is from Brian. He writes, I'm working on improving myself, but my environment isn't exactly supportive. The people around me tend to be negative, and I often feel pulled down by them. How can I keep striving for excellence in an unsupportive environment?
Brian, that's a powerful question. The environment we're in, our relationships, our workplace can either uplift us or pull us down. And this is especially challenging when you're trying to improve yourself. Here's my advice: focus on controlling your inputs. If your surroundings are negative, then make an extra effort to input positivity. That could mean listening to motivational speakers, reading inspiring books, or even joining online communities where you can connect with like-minded people. Remember, excellence isn't just about achieving things outwardly, it's about the inner transformation you create despite your circumstances. Sometimes the greatest growth comes from learning to maintain your focus and positivity in an environment that tests you. And as you continue to make progress, you might even inspire those around you. Change has a way of spreading, but it has to start within.
So Jim, are you saying Brian should almost create a protective bubble of positive inputs around him?
Yes, that's a good way to put it, Matt. Surround yourself with the messages, people, and habits that uplift you, even if they're not physically close to you. And Brian, remember, every step you take toward excellence is shaping your future environment too. Over time, you may find that either the people around you shift or you're drawn to new circles that support your growth.
Our third question is from Lisa. She asks, Jim, I start off with great enthusiasm whenever I set a goal, but eventually I lose steam and start to procrastinate. How can I stay consistent in my pursuit of excellence and overcome procrastination?
Lisa, procrastination is a struggle many people face. But here's something important to remember: procrastination often isn't about the task itself. It's about how we feel about the task. Sometimes we're overwhelmed, or maybe we're afraid of failing. The first step is to ask yourself, why am I hesitating? Often just identifying the reason can help you find a solution. The next step is to make the task smaller. If you've got a big goal, break it down into the smallest possible steps and focus on completing just one of those steps each day. Excellence isn't built in one day or even 1 year, it's built one small action at a time. And finally, Lisa, stay connected to your why. Remind yourself of the reasons behind your goal. Write them down, keep them visible. When you have a strong why, you're more likely to push through the times when you feel like giving up.
Breaking it down into small, achievable steps and staying focused on your why, that's fantastic advice. Jim, it seems like you're saying that consistency comes from both strategy and motivation.
Yes, Matt. Excellence is about having a system, yes, but it's also about staying inspired. When the reason behind your goal is powerful, it keeps you going even on the days when motivation is low. And Lisa, excellence isn't about never procrastinating. It's about learning to catch yourself when you do and finding a way to keep moving forward.
This one is from Daniel. He writes, I want to excel in my career, but I also don't want to neglect my family and personal life. How do I balance pursuing excellence in both areas without one suffering?
Daniel, that's a thoughtful question. And it shows that you're already on the path to excellence because you're considering balance. Here's something I've learned: excellence doesn't mean giving all of your time to one thing, it means being fully present wherever you are. One way to do this is by creating clear boundaries. When you're at work, focus fully on work. When you're with family, put away distractions and give them your full attention. It's about quality, not just quantity. You don't have to choose between success in your career and happiness in your personal life. By practicing excellence in how you manage your time and presence, you can make space for both.
Jim, it sounds like excellence in balance requires intention, right? It's not about splitting yourself in two, but about being intentional with where you invest your energy.
That's exactly right, Matt. Balance is about intentionality. And Daniel, one last thing, don't hesitate to reassess. Life changes and sometimes you'll need to adjust the balance. Excellence isn't about rigidly sticking to a plan, it's about flexibility, being willing to make changes when needed, and always putting your most meaningful priorities first.
All right, our last question is from Margaret. She writes, I'm in my 50s and feel like I'm only now beginning to pursue excellence. Is it too late to start? And can I still make a meaningful impact?
Margaret, I have great news for you. It's never too late to start the journey to excellence. The beauty of excellence is that it's not about age, it's about commitment. You have decades of life experience, wisdom, and insight that younger people don't have. Use that to your advantage. Every day you invest in excellence, you're planting seeds. You might not see the harvest immediately, but that doesn't mean the seeds aren't growing. Start with one area of your life where you feel drawn to make an impact. And remember, the people who leave the greatest legacy often start later in life. Excellence is about the depth of your commitment, not the age you begin.
That's so inspiring, Jim. So To Margaret and anyone listening, it's truly never too late to step into excellence. It's about making that commitment right here and now, regardless of where you are.
Exactly, Matt. Every day is an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves. The only time it's too late is when we decide it's too late.
And with that, Jim, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your insights, and your time. I know our listeners are going to take away so much from this conversation.
Thank you, Matt. It's been a pleasure to dive deep into the principles of excellence. And to everyone listening, remember the pursuit of excellence is a journey. Every step forward counts. Go after it with all your heart.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've had today, Jim. You've shared so many valuable insights, from the foundational aspects of excellence to the practical strategies for maintaining it in our lives. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you, what final words of wisdom would you like to leave our listeners with? How can they take all of this and truly embody excellence in their daily lives?
Matt, it's been a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts. As we close, I want to emphasize one crucial point: excellence is a choice, not a destination. Every day, we wake up and have the chance to make decisions that align with our pursuit of excellence. It starts with our mindset choosing to embrace challenges, to learn from our setbacks, and to grow continuously. I'd encourage everyone listening to cultivate a vision for what excellence looks like for them personally. Not what it looks like for your neighbor or your friend, but what it means for you. Reflect on your values, your passions, and your goals. When you have a clear vision, it fuels your motivation and helps you navigate the inevitable obstacles along the way. And remember, the journey to excellence is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It requires perseverance, discipline, and patience. Surround yourself with uplifting people, read inspiring books, and consume content that challenges you to think bigger. Finally, take action. Don't just listen to this podcast and let it fade away. Implement what you've learned today. Start small, but start now. Each small step you take leads you closer to the life you desire. Lastly, always keep in mind that the impact you make doesn't just affect you, it has a ripple effect on everyone around you. When you strive for excellence, you inspire others to do the same. And together we can create a better world through our individual commitments to excellence.
Jim, that is incredibly powerful. You've encapsulated the essence of what it means to pursue excellence. Choosing excellence every day, having a vision, surrounding ourselves with the right influences, and taking consistent action. Those are actionable steps everyone can apply starting today. To everyone listening, I want to thank you for being part of this conversation. I hope you felt inspired and equipped to take on your own journey toward excellence. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection. And as Jim said, take that first step today. Jim, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, and I know our audience will carry these lessons with them moving forward.
Thank you, Matt. It's been a delight to share these ideas. Keep moving forward, everyone, and remember, you have the power to unlock excellence in your life. Make the choice to do it today.
And to our listeners, that wraps up this episode of our podcast. If you found value in our discussion today, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We want to hear how you're applying these principles in your own life. Join us next time for more inspiring conversations and actionable insights. Until then, keep striving for excellence. Thank you for listening.